you soon. I'll tell tales of the waste and hold in my hand a piece that I'll tear from that devilish moon. Who is like God, who treads on the sod and pushes the plow like a serf? And how do you know the seeds that you grow as you scratch for a place on this earth? The cards that he grips with a smile on his lips as you ponder your ponderous plays. Games won one by one until evening has come. There's no time, as you heard the man say. And who is like God, who worries and plods but pushes ahead through the dark? Because others need help and he still has his health, and at times life still feels like a lark. You watch his hand stretch halfway down the neck as he strums. Oh, you wonder and hear each note meet the next as pulled from the frets, tied to a heartbeat and played just as clear. And who is like God, who smiles and nods as his friends gather round him and say, you bind us like glue, and we wish that you could come back and talk to us every day. Pupils and peers gather to hear as he speaks to the crowd from his chair. Scruples held dear can conquer our fear. Music is needed as much as air. And who is like God, or a bean in your pod, who listens and knows that you care? And he wonders how you write the words that you do, but you both know who helped you prepare. And who is like God, who treads on the sod and pushes the plow like a serf? And how do you know the seeds that you grow as you scratch for a place on this earth? Came from the uplands on a misty day. He said that he came to deliver us from the dark animal gods that had led us astray by demanding the gift of an innocent's blood. Ride to the south, our just king, and carry your banner proudly. On your return we will sing to greet your triumph loudly. He carried the light and remembered the word, but respected the rule of the rod from up high, until one dark day his faith was disturbed, though given his orders he could not fathom why. The priest of the rod said a town was enthralled by our most evil, craven, and treacherous foe. Though the hero sent missives and attempted to stall, he was ordered to raise the town much to his woe. Though his faith was quite strong, his devotion was true, the hero could not carry his orders through. So he laid down his arms and prayed in retreat, living off nothing but water for weeks, until he emerged to bring truth and hope. And he mounted his horse and rode off to the pole. Ride to the south, our just king, and carry your banner proudly. On your return we will sing to greet your triumph loudly. He rode till he came to the high papal keep and barged into the rooms of the Pope fast asleep. Grabbed rod, frock, and crown, threw them down at his feet, where he shattered their power to cower the weak. He rode back to the uplands on a misty day, having rescued the light from its keepers infirm, to tell folk how to live, or to think, or to pray. A king lives to serve, respect must be earned. Ride to the south, our just king, and carry your banner proudly. On your return we must sing to greet your triumph loudly. Carmela was sweet and pale as the petals of flowers that bloom under light of the moon. She knew poetry and songs and dances and riddles, but felt cursed with the weight of an impending doom. Because she had seen the way others were treated, the plain-looking girls and most of the boys, they were challenged and bullied and crushed and defeated. But Carmela got nothing but affection and toys. She knew that she had to evade this dark fate of being treated like a most precious object. She knew to escape before it was too late. The shape of her future was hers to protect. So she got some black ink and a few safety pins before she could rethink. She stabbed through her skin after only an hour, though the pain made her cry. She had etched in the outline of a crude butterfly. When her folks saw her arm, they were stunned and confused. They thought that they must be to blame, but their pleas went unanswered, their help was refused. For she sought to start living without beauty and shame. Baggy clothes and short hair and a new way of talking, drop eyes from their unconscious search. Less polite manners, a swagger when walking, all can be managed if you rehearse. But she'd wonder sometimes, was she losing herself? Was she forcing a change for a shot at fair terms? But she wanted meaning, not comfort and wealth. So she had just one shot and her ambition burned. Carmela got glimpses of what she surrendered in the lives that her female friends led. Babies by 30, puffy and tender, husbands that worked to keep them overfed. The passing of time seemed unkind to her friends. They told her that something had changed. Special patients and treatments had come to an end. Strangers were acting distressingly strange. But Carmela didn't notice too much of a change. Turtlenecked with a stately mustache, her dealings with peers, old and new, stayed the same. If she needed assistance, she just had to ask. As an elder, Carmela would often reflect on a life so impactful and strange. She chose her own terms to accept or reject, a grizzled old witch, not a porcelain dame. Because most flowers bloom for just a few days, while rootstocks and thorns make longer stays. So hours spent learning and building our mind can provide for those folk fate or chance leave behind. Carmela never mourned for the life she had led, or felt that her work was a waste. She'd work to propel her whole people ahead, and focused much less on having the prettiest face. A girl with eyes of crystal balls and hair of the darkest mystique, grins with violet painted lips, approaches me and speaks. She shares her name as I do mine, with gestures plain and sweet, then tells me she's a Capricorn. I ask her what that means. With your birth date and sign, the stars in the skies reveal answers clear as the day. Cosmic creations and sound explanations give reason for how we behave. Well, I asked her to show how this could be so, how this method so ancient and wise could judge people's fate while the stars constellate. If those stars have all shifted since Babylon's time, it's more likely to me that a man's personality is shaped not by auras in space, but by family and friends and the way that he spends his days navigating this place. Annoyed with me, the girl concedes that proof is not what she needs. The accuracy of the words that she reads are enough to make her believe. Yet I insist these predictions of character come purposely common and vague. It matters not when you're born with a Libra or Capricorn. The gurus that spew them ensure they'll relate. The meaning derived from each of our lives need not be obscured in such ways. The thoughts that we spread can't afford to be read by mystics and robbed of their grace. The girl only stared, surprised that I dare to question these feelings she's felt. Yet my sympathy sways as she traipses away, off to go bore someone else. Farewell, brother of mine, I hope the fortunes favor you. It's all as well, we'll probably do fine, now that the junta has pulled off their coup, and Grandma and Uncle Jose grow more dependent every day. So though it be swell to flee our poor hell, I've got people to feed while you run away. Abandon the place you were born. It's too risky, unstable, and war-torn. You went to our schools, but you're no simple fool. Just leave us to cry and to mourn. Vuelve a nosotros, dear brother of mine. You forced me to beg and to plead. Our children are living on gristle and rind, while the general gets what the general needs. Bread lines are starting to form. People push past the old and the weak. We don't know whether to search or to mourn, for those disappeared while we were asleep. And still I feel I can't go, for all the dependents I know. So though it be swell to flee our poor hell, go run to the people who buy what we grow. Leave us here to bleed and to cry, while secret police question and pry. Notebooks, recorders, and state-owned reporters. For any new question, they tell a new lie. Well, they are no so trust, dear brother of mine. You've left us to fight for our lives. Government bandits are drinking our wine. They torture our husbands, imprison our wives. While you run, we make plans, and we bide our time. We strike while we can, make them pay for their crimes. And after we've won, you can let your kids know how many were gunned down to bring back the vote. Well, they are no soldados, esta raza salvó. Now that the trouble has fled, we'll meet you at the airport, help carry your load. Turistas are safe now that the dictator's dead. I want a big white nut, a flat spruce gut, a board that shakes for days. I want a quick fast drum to get me some with my wild old cowboy ways. I want a thick old strap and a gunny sack to bring my guitar along. I want a big old girl to roll my world and watch me write my songs. And I'll be strumming and coming all over this town, and you'll be stricken by my picking when I finally come around. There ain't no thing like the wild twang that'll pull me to my feet, and a big barn dance and a hay romance in that hazy summer heat. Once you be what you wanna be, and have done the same with C. All the cocks and hens come home to brood and roost eventually. Remember how I strummed and I flubbed up notes and chords, and we'll fucking shit and grin and spit, cause it sure beats being bored. I'm a big man child with a stupid smile, and I can't dress worth a damn. Like the crop of a kosher farmer, I am what I am. But I seldom think while I swill my drink that it is too much a shame, because I see who's been leading me, and they're about just the same. And I'll be fretting and wetting all over this town, and I'll be too dumb to notice if I end up in the pound. I was born to drink until my eyes close one final time, and if I do it in front of you, at least I fucking rhyme. The boy with the crooked nose put down his book and rose, walked loudly to greet with no shoes on his feet the old man who swept out the streets. After scarcely a mile, the boy had to smile when he saw the old fool sat on a stool, lecturing ethics to birds on the street. Harsh edicts would greet any fowl who'd meet his off-balance stare for more than a beat. After he'd heard enough shaming of birds, the crooked-nosed boy came to the old man to ask of old legends or gossip he'd heard, and they spoke like conspirators sharing a plan. With an uneven grin, the man started to spin a retelling of heroes who traveled by ship. But the boy made a face, so the tales were replaced with accounts of how tyrants had tightened their grip on the city they lived in and expected to die. The boy wanted more, he had to know why. With patience explaining each pertinent fact, the elder reclined and made a soft moan. And Habit, his hand grasped the spot on his back. He said, souls may not end, but this body is on loan. And they'd walk past old forums that now were just fields, where laws were once drafted and cases appealed, and each held a share of law's creation and care to ensure to all people the rules appeared fair. When the boy was much younger, he'd often maintain the tyrant should quickly meet ruin and pain, but the elder man balked said it's not your place until you have grown and the crowd knows your face. You must build and achieve, show what can be done. True trust can't be bought, it has to be won. Since then the boy listened more than he asked, and would help the old man as he struggled at tasks. The boy would rise early and take the man's sweep to finish the job while his friend was asleep. The old man awaken at the cock's cry and see his work finished, tears in his eyes. Well, we know of what happened to the crooked-nosed boy who eventually rose in triumph and joy, but in sadness as well, though his city restored. For the boy could take walks with his mentor no more. Give me a hit of that shit as I roll down Copper Road Drive. Thank God I got me a lick of that spit, or I might have just rolled up and died. I was born alone down in a Georgia town with a spittoon in my hand, and I know deep down it's a world of clowns, so I pick tunes with my band. Goddamn freedom flows through the trees like a sweet babe's Georgia smile, and I hear the little fiddle on the whistling breeze saying country folk can survive. And you know, if you had to do what's true and fight for freedom's blood, you'd stick like glue to the red and the blue, even if the white gets stained in the mud. Shit, and I rip, tearing up clods as I drive down Copper Road. I spit and applaud our branded gods because Amazon saved our soul. I move where I must, but I have my own will, with the wheel pushed to my chest. On this big tour bus as I'm crushing these pills, maintaining compliance with my manifest. Because the algorithm that supplies my living keeps my schedule pretty tight. But after I drop this cargo I got, we can party all night, get rowdy and fight, saying country folk can survive. This tale is the strangest I've heard in my life, of the stampeding snapper and his necritor wife. One from the west, the next from the east. Together they acted like one fearsome beast. They would stamp into town and terrify all. The snappers' deep stomps would crash houses and walls, while the necritor circled and came up behind and claimed that she knew all the pains on their minds. Even though the folks witnessed them come as a pair, most were left witless in sudden despair. So they heeded the necritor and gave up their rights, so that they could disperse the great beast into night. The great snapper continued his work with no stall, and once nothing was left he would beckon and call. At this she would cackle and fly through the roof, but her lies worked so well few left cared for the truth. so a village was left in ruin and shame. They knew not the problem except who to blame. It was those who had hated their Necrotor god, like a faith had perturbed her, so said the mob. And the heretics died, not sure where or when. The clocks were all shattered for coming from sin. The maps were all burned for distorting the truth. Books were all mulched for deluding the youth. And thus was my story, heartbreaking and strange. A land born in glory, now deeply deranged. If you go to that bad land so sprawling and vast, you'll find none who remember their civilized past. Well, I was toting my pack along and dusty Winnemucca Road when along came a semi with a high and canvas covered load. If you're going to Winnemucca, Mac, with me you can ride. So I picked up my pack and I settled down inside. He asked me if I'd seen a road with so much dust and sand, and I said, listen, bud, I've traveled every road in this here land. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I crossed the deserts bare, man, and I breathe the mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Winslow, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa, Oklahoma, Tampa, Panama, Ottawa, La Paloma, Bangor, Baltimore, Salvador, Amarillo, Tocopilla, Barranquilla, and Padilla. I'm a killer. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I crossed the deserts bare, man, and I breathe that mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Boston, Charleston, Dayton, Louisiana, Washington, Houston, Kingston, Texarkana, Monterey, Faraday, Santa Fe, Tallapooza, Glen Rock, Black Rock, Little Rock, Oswego, Tennessee, the Hennessy, Chicopee, Spirit Lake, Grand Lake, Devil's Lake, Crater Lake, for peace sake. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I crossed the deserts bare, man, and I breathe that mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Louisville, Nashville, Knoxville, Umpapika, Sheffield, Jacksonville, Waterville, Costa Rica, Pittsfield, Bakersfield, Springfield, Shreveport, Hackensack, Cadillac, Fond du Lac, Davenport, Idaho, Jellicoe, Argentina, Diamantina, Pasadena, Catalina. See what I mean? I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I crossed the deserts bare, man, and I breathe that mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Pittsburgh, Parkersburg, Ravensburg, Colorado, Ellensburg, Rexburg, Vicksburg, El Dorado, Larimore, Hatmore, Haverstraw, Chattanooga, Chaska, Nebraska, Alaska, Opa, Baraboo, Waterloo, Kalamazoo, Kansas City, Sioux City, Cedar City, Dodge City. What a pity. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I crossed the deserts bare, man, and I breathe that mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. When I was just a little boy, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be handsome? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. When I grew up and fell in love, I asked my sweetheart what lies ahead. Will there be rainbows rainbows day after day. Here's what my sweetheart said. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Now I have children of my own. They ask their father, what will they be? Will they be pretty? Will they be rich? I tell them tenderly, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Burn not our books, leave the scrolls in their racks, even knowing their contents obscene. I yearn that you look and control your attacks, heaving glowing coals on people's hard work and dreams. Listen, please, people, to the words that I sing before you return to your homes for the evening. And please, just desires to keep happy and fed, but leave prophets and liars so they still can be read. And please, put out these fires, let's go home to our beds, and we'll worry about more pressing evils instead. For when you burn up the words of an author whose dead pages pressed in a different time, you deprive those yet born of the chance to have read different thoughts from a different mind. If those words posed a challenge to the mighty and strong, will they lose any chance to ignite better deeds amongst those who might try to right wrongs, or better lives for the wrong, who might try to do right? If our young can't aspire to stay sheltered and fed with the skills of a civilized mind, then our young may conspire, slay and plunder instead, leaving learning and reason behind. We've learned ways to live with such freedom and ease, holding disease and starvation at bay. But our ways must rely on such records as these, so our lives will get harder as we burn them away. So burn not our books, leave the scrolls in their racks, even knowing their contents obscene. I yearn that you look and control your attacks, heaving glowing coals on people's hard work and dreams. Listen, please, people. Precious moments, I ask, before you return to your mandated task. And please put out these fires. Let's go home to our beds, and we'll take down the pyres to save what still can be read. And please just desires to keep happy and fed, and we'll clean up this mess in the morning. Well, it may seem that recordings of partisan hacks can preserve no great fuel for our minds, but their arguments live so much longer, in fact, reoccurring to hacks throughout time. When you know that some parts of our lives do not change despite the laws of the land or the year, it might help you decide when you try to arrange to act with a purpose, not react in fear. So burn not our books, leave the scrolls in their racks, even knowing their contents obscene. Iron that you look and control your attacks, heaving glowing coals on people's hard work and dreams. Listen now, people, to you I must plead. Ignore primal fears, please think of our needs. And we'll try to retire, and we'll go home instead, building better desires from the words you have read. And then we'll retire and discuss while we're fed, using coals to cook beans and not books. If what you hate are the words that are scratched by the reed, then you still have an option of keys. Don't censor or burn one lone madman's creed, or his legend and fame will increase. If instead you can answer his scrawlings in turn and produce some more reasoned retort, then people will listen, and your ideas will have earned their place in the schools and the courts. Well, ideas are born well before the men they impel to destroy or refine what they see. So with me, poor Orwell, abhor the men who compel you to be as they want you to be. In your readings you may learn of people who claim to hold ethics and virtues most just, but they then needed neither to rob and to maim. They said that to be just we must do as we must. So burn not our books, leave the scrolls in their racks, even knowing their contents obscene. Iron that you look and control your attacks, heaving glowing coals on a dead poet's dreams. Please drop your torch and just lend me your ear. I'm armed but with words, you have nothing to fear. Please work to inspire better thinking instead, building better desires from the words you have read. And when you retire and lay in your deathbed, well, you'll have no regrets in the end. was a toddling lad, he thought a cactus a toy. When he reached out and grabbed in his hand, it was stabbed, dread terror replacing his joy. But he done of his own free will, he chose of his own free will. When he was tall as a suckling goat, around the cook fire he ran. When his foot twisted down and he fell to the ground, and he burned up and mangled his hand. But he ran of his own free will, he chose of his own free will. Scarce had the feeling returned to his fingers, though mighty a scar did remain. A smooth man sold him balm that would soothe and would calm, but instead caused more damage and pain. But he bought of his own free will, he chose of his own free will. His parents were through with this burdensome boy and sent him to work on a farm, to haul chaff and split logs and feed orange rinds to hogs and keep himself distant from harm. While other boys learned how to add or to spell, the boy toiled and labored all day, learning nothing of books or how wider worlds look. Folks shook their heads and did say he stayed dumb of his own free will. He's dumb of his own free will. When the boy was of age, the farm sent him away to work at a shop for a trade. But no foreman would have an illiterate scab except a strange man with a spade. He went of his own free will, he chose of his own free will. That night the boy found what the man did for work, crossing through field, turf and hedge, digging up graves for the riches they gave, and the dead couldn't mind they were dead. The next night things went wrong for the boy and the man, sneaking in through the churchyard. Townsmen lay in wait just beyond the back gate and set on them both and quite hard. They stole of their own free will, they were thieves of their own free will. The great hall the next day saw them stand to be judged, not a word said in either's defense. When the judge stood and cried, evil men all must die for such crimes, death is your recompense. You sinned of your own free will, you chose evil of your own free will. Determined to win some cash from all and pardon you and free us from this hellish life of 12-hour shifts and overnights. These young boys that I'm walking with have no experience, they've got no grit. There's nothing keeping them ahead of me. It's a long and it'll be a long time till we meet again. And until then, just remember what I said. It's a long, long walk, and it'll be the longer without you. And remember that across the states, and it's brought me to appreciate the mix of circumstances that brought us here today. Well, the one thing that I notice is most of them, well, they're just kids. They're about to figure out what a mistake they've made, 'cause it's a long, long walk, and it'll be a long time till I can stop. But until then, I'll keep marching home to you. Oh, it's a long, long walk, and it'll be the longer without you. And remember that I think of you every minute of every day. Well, I've heard old Pa talk death before when he was burning out traitors in the Major's War. Well, it's one thing to be told a tale and the other to watch them boys that fell. The wardens without grief or doubt give just 3 strikes and then they're out and drag their bleeding corpses off the road. It's a long, long walk and it's getting hard, but I'm still on the way. I'm a man who means the things I say. I'm coming home to you, and it's a long, long walk, and it'll be the longer without you. And remember that I think of you every goddamn second of every day. In a time of far antiquities, the first wizard laid a plan. A game of creativity soon spread throughout the land, of noble knights and hoary shades, of goblin spells and rings, wars to fight for glory made as far as one could think. Build a world inside a deck, no kingdom of your own. To meet with others you respect, a safer place than home. But this game had many moving parts that had to be maintained, and the caretakers with greedy hearts dreamt of riches to be gained. Machines re-geared to print more cards to meet increased demand. Unceasing commands to remand older standards left commanders who could not command. So with cardstock of tissue and clarity issues, spells fizzled and walls turned to dust. Shamans and sages lapsed into rages, he sizzled, sickles and swords turned to rust. But these were just wizards playing a card game. Who cares if they suffer or fail? Why should they have a space to feel trusted and safe? You can make much more money selling straight through the mail. So let's drive to the Southlands and play in the Great Hall. For the decade those venues survive, until they're deprived of what they need to thrive. Wizards' towers to empower larger halls to serve all. 'Cause magic is not a thing one person owns, or a company, corporate or small. The first wizard denied a crown or a throne. He must know what he did for the better of all. So please, when you work on your quarterly plans, plotting your growth across time, more than just customers, more than just fans. People's well-being and sanity are on the line. Well, people like to pontificate and love to tell me that the moon's a false projection and the world is really flat. Things can't just be good or bad, there's no real way to know. And to say you have an answer is to let your privilege show. Well, the laws of physics stay the same, regardless how we feel. I hope you and I at least can cry, reality is real. Reality is real, reality is real. The stars in the sky are burning gaseous spheres. Math works alright and physics makes it clear that reality is basically real. Sometimes I almost lose my mind when someone tells me that it might be true for me, but for them there are different facts. Because they want it to be that way, well that way then it is. So let's repeat the same old horseshit that was fed to us as kids. Well, our behavior has to change regardless how we feel. I hope you can take a stand and present a strong appeal that reality is real. Reality is real, reality is real. The stars in the sky are burning gaseous spheres. Math works alright and physics makes it clear that reality is basically real. A complex place, there's many questions left to ask. How God or Krishna made us and for what spiritual task? How can we know what came before if none of us were there? We must trust revealed knowledge from a God who truly cares enough to lead our lives with threats of hell inside our heads. Well, I hope that you dodge that trap and come to see instead that reality is real. Reality is real, reality is real. The stars in the sky are burning gaseous spheres. Math works alright and physics makes it clear that reality is practically real. Perhaps you've come across folks who think you can read the stars, or learn about the future with the shuffling of cards, or speak to ancient life forms in amethyst or jade, or let spinal sublimation cure the problems that you've made for your body by not harnessing the boundless flow of ki. Well, I must insist you prove all this before giving up my plea that reality is real. Soon gang pressed by slavers to be bathed in a plan to cause innocence doom. But the child was cunning and resented the scheme, and prayed to the cosmos who spoke in his dreams, told him how to be free and cause his captors doom by breaking the airlocks in each of their rooms. And he hid in the bridge while they decompressed, and left with the travelers that he'd freed from duress. And he soared between comets and planetoids, hurtling through the vacuum of space. He united world governments, no matter how paranoid, and provided a future for every sapient race. Thousands of star systems freed by his deeds. By the time he was only 15, he listened to people and cared for their needs, if they were fleshy like him or sentient steam. But every new alien, no matter how odd, held this belief despite creed or God. Time was moving too fast with still too much to do. If things kept drifting apart, well then it had to be argued. Space would expand until things went cold. Any option to stop it would be desperate and bold. And he soared between between comets and planetoids, hurtling through the vacuum of space. He united world governments, no matter how paranoid, and provided a future for every sapient race. So the hero recalled his new friends and old allies in order galactic like never before. Planets and space stations all to be utilized to master reality, stop death at the door. We build the machine the size of a star. All scientists gather, no journey too far. The tests are complete and we await the machine to bring us oblivion or our eternal dreams. And the hero that gave us the dream and the choice and risk, we accepted all with one voice. And he soared between comets and planetoids, hurtling through the vacuum of space. He united world governments, no matter how paranoid, and provided a future for every sapient both promised we'd wait, while I worked the mines of Perseus 8. As I watched another worker get flayed and dismembered, much to my dismay, that's when I remembered near light speed travel expands local space-time. So 1 year for me is 12 years for you. By the time I'd return to feel the earth's sunshine, you'd be just 2 months shy of 72. I know that you've already realized this. We were both quite young and dim, but I'm mining this plasma and clenching my fist to distract from the mold colonizing my skin. I have less than a quarter of my own DNA. I'm more protozoa than man, and I'm on break from mining, and I had to say, I have to assume this is going according to plan. And I feel quite the fool as I left in your name any credit I'd saved, if I live not to claim the pension I'd earned from the toil and grind of fighting off cave bats that feed on the mind, and digging for ore that howls in the gloom. As you carry it back, it whispers and hums, tells you dark tales of mayhem and conquest and doom. But you grow accustomed as you go numb. I know that you've already realized this. I should have read the fine print, but I'm hauling this ore and I'm clenching my fists as tendrils of slime drip down my chin. Bombarded by particles exotic and rare, I've become much more mushroom than man. I complained to the foreman, but he didn't care. I have to assume this is going according to plan. enjoy the fruits of my labor without any shame. My hands have no fingers I could point at you. Still I wish I had not put the accounts in both names. Is a thought that still lingers as I dissolve into goo. Locked in an orbit of a typical kind, in as ordinary a system as you'd ever find, is a planet more strange than any mystical lore. But let me recount, for you're new through this shuttle door, and I feel a bit better when I'm not on my own. When you live on this world, it's inexplicably grand, maybe a compound in the water or a salt in the sand. For life on this planet stops time's progression, but you're left with no egress from the planet's possession. So you grow in your wisdom with no way to go home, and you live in erudite life as you converse with the globe that holds you there with no strife. For its gift you remain, so it's never alone, and you speak of each fact of reality and the mystique of ideas of solipsism and duality. But never can you use your wisdom or skill. The planet holds you there with unbreakable will, part of a menagerie of eternal playthings, there to tell stories, craft artworks, or sing. For a planetary intelligence of staggering breadth, content to leave you there without sickness or death, a companion eternal, a being supreme, your divine benefactor in a near endless dream. Well, you might wonder how I know of such a mythical place, yet I waste